So how do we learn our format? How do we take on board this information? Well, we all have different learning styles, and it's important to keep in mind that we're a combination of these, but you usually have one stronger preference than the other. The first one is you have visual learners. You might be a visual learner. So what this means is you love looking at pictures, images, or video. So maybe when you're learning the choreography or your class, you watch the video time and time again, and that's how you retain the information. You take on board all this information. If you think back to school, maybe you enjoyed graphs and diagrams and illustrations, and that helped you memorize stuff. So you might be a strong preference in the visual category. Your motto would be, show me. If you're learning something new, show it to me. That's how I learn. And I need to watch you intently, and that's how you take on board new information. You might be an auditory learner. So these people really listen to all aspects. So if you're talking to someone that is an auditory learner, they're maybe looking up and they're really paying attention to what you're saying, not only the words, but how you're expressing the words. So they take on board a lot of sounds. So that's how they retain information. They love talking about stuff. So do you love discussing things? Like if you get a new round, do you love talking to people and talking to other instructors about this round? Do you love engaging in conversations? You might be an auditory learner. Your motto would be, oh, tell me about it. Tell me about that new round. You might also be a kinesthetic or a tactile learner. I'm very much a tactile or a kinesthetic learner. I need to do something physically to learn it. I have to practice it and just do it. I like to see things, but I also like to do it. And for some, it's kind of strange. It's even though I mentally can't remember if I've done something, like I can't recall a lot of information just straight like that. It's like, what was it? But when I start moving, it just pops out of nowhere. It's kind of strange. It's somewhere in my body when I've done the workout. When I'm learning something new, I need to do it and practice it, and it has to feel part of my body, and that's how I learn. So if you're a kinesthetic or a tactile learner, you like to move things. You're usually quite emotional, and you trust your gut. You feel you're tied into your feelings and emotions. So it's really important. If you're a kinesthetic learner, you really need to practice. You need to do the movements. You need to learn the movements by doing them. So your motto would be, "Hey, let me try it out. Let me try it and see how it feels." And let me try it out and see how it feels. So you're probably tying your feelings into it. So as I mentioned before, we're usually a combination of one or two or maybe all three of these, but you're usually stronger in one aspect. And as I mentioned earlier on, it's really important that you learn your choreography or your structure or your class or your format, basically the pre-design. Everything is handed to you, and it's really important that you learn this so it can free you up for other things. So that's why understanding where your preference is will help you take on board the information and retain the information so you don't have to think about it anymore and it's just there. So tips for learning, maybe just listen to your music. Like if you're an auditory person and your class is driven by music, listen to your music. Listen. Or watch the videos, and maybe don't watch them, but actually listen to the cues and listen to how the transitions are. So you take on board a lot of stuff by just listening. And if that's your preference, if you are an auditory listener or an auditory learner, try putting the video on, the class video, and not watching it. So actually just taking all this stuff on board, because sometimes we get distracted with what we see. Oh, what's that top they're wearing? Oh, why are they doing that? Oh, well, those dumbbells looked a little different. And then you start getting distracted if you're trying to memorize choreography. So think about just listening and looking away and taking on board what they're saying and how they're saying it. You can also, again, just watch. Maybe you're a visual learner. Watch the class videos, watch the overview videos, and keep watching if you're a visual learner. Or if you're a kinesthetic learner, do the class over and over again. Don't just watch the overview, actually do the class, feel the class. If it's a weight class, pick up weights. What weights would you use in class, and really get a feel for it, because that will create memory in your body, so you'll retain the information and retain the choreography a lot quicker. Maybe you're the type of person that needs to look for patterns. A lot of classes are built up on patterns, so the format is designed with patterns in mind. Once you find the patterns, it's really easy for you to memorize everything else. Another thing too that's really important before you teach a class is make sure that you give yourself a little bit of time, whether it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes, depending on how new and experienced you are as an instructor. Give yourself time to prep before class. Don't just step in and expect everything to be there. Actually prepare before class. And the goal is to know your class or know your format or choreography so intimately that you don't even have to think about it anymore. No cheat sheets, nothing like that. Free yourself of all that, so that the Instructor Success Pathway can really work for you. And we're going to take a look at the other ones in the other sections, or the other mentoring sessions that will be coming following this one later on. But format is first, pre-design is first, learn your stuff. One last thing, why is this so important? Well, as I mentioned, it frees up other areas of the Instructor Success Pathway, but I think the best thing of all is it frees you up to be yourself. When you're out of your head, you can start relaxing and you can bring out your true personality. Since we're working with pre-design, everyone's going to be teaching basically the same class. But what makes your class unique? Why would people come back to your class and want to experience your class? Well, it's all about you and what you bring out. But if you're constantly in your head thinking about what's the next move, what did we do then? I have to remember that. You're blocking who you really are and your own personality from coming through because you're blocking yourself in your mind. You need to free yourself, open yourself up, be in the moment, and be there with your class. Allow yourself to shine. What special qualities do you bring to your class? Allow them to come out by freeing yourself from trying to memorize all this choreography. Learn it so well that it's a part of you, and then just deliver the class naturally and freely and completely being yourself. That wraps up our first mentoring session. Others will follow, taking a closer look at the other steps in the Instructor Success Pathway. As I mentioned before, make sure that you keep practicing, keep revisiting these sessions, taking on board more and more information. Always, always practice and make sure that you keep evolving yourself as an instructor. Give your class participants the best experience possible, and they'll keep coming back, and that's how you fill the room.